Howdy everybody. Let's talk about the minor scale. Last video we talked about the major scale. We're going to use a similar pattern with just a little tweak and build a minor scale. So here we go. We're going to use a whole step, but then half step, then a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. And that builds a minor key. And so, or a minor scale. Now, technically speaking, there are a lot of minor scales. Actually, there's like major minor, there's Dorian, Aeolian. Don't worry about that right now. It's all extremely simple, and we'll actually talk about it right now, just so you're familiar with it. Okay? Just know that right now, what we're building is an Aeolian minor. Aeolian. Okay? But this is the sound of the most common minor sound in fiddling, I would say, and a lot of other music. Now this is, alright, so here we go. Now we're going to use our musical alphabet with these intervals, or these spaces between notes, these steps, and build a minor scale. So we're going to start with A. Okay? So we're going to build, first we're going to build an A minor. So now, first of all, let's number our notes. Okay? So our first note, all right, to get to, will be the key that we're in, A minor. So our 1 will be A. Then we'll take a whole step to get to 2. Oops, sorry, 2. Half step to 3. Hold to 4. Hold to 5. Half to 6. Hold to 7. And then hold to 8, which equals 1. Just the octave up. And so in A minor, we're going to start. So 1 here is going to be A. It's our first. How do we get to 2? All right, let's go up to our friendly alphabet and count. So we're to get to our second note in the scale, A minor scale, we're going to use a whole step. We're going to jump over the A sharp, B flat, same note, to get to B. So that's our 2. B is our second note. Now, that's the same as the major. But here's the difference, okay? Look here. You're going to go to get to your third note. How much of a step is this? Just a half, meaning the next one up. B. And so the next one up will be C. And so our third note will be C. To get from our third to our fourth note, which one will be our fourth? That one's going to be a whole step up again. So we're at C. We're going to go C sharp, skip over that one, to D. D. To get to our fifth note, from fourth to fifth, it's going to be another whole step. And so we're going to go up here, we're going to go back to D. 1 half step takes us to D sharp, next half step to E. And that's 1 whole. 2 halves equal a whole, and so that's an E. How about 5 to 6? To find the 6th note in the scale, we're going to go just the next one up, because that's going to be a little half. just a half. So E to F. So 6 is going to be F, natural. And then to get to our next, we're going to have a whole step here. And so the whole will go from F, we'll skip F sharp, G flat, to G. That takes us to G as our 7th note. And then we have another whole step after that to get back to our 1. And so after the 7th, you're always going to go back to your 1. And so here we go from 7 to 1. There's 7 to 8, or to 1, which is the same thing, is a whole step. So we're at G for the 7th. 1 half step would take us here to G sharp. 1 more half step would take us to A. And that starts the pattern all the way back over at A. And so 8. Oh, sorry. So 8 will be A. That's how you build a minor scale. Now, if you remember the notes from, and specifically, now this is an Aeolian minor, but if you remember the notes between A major and A minor, what are the differences? So A major, and I'll just note them here. So A major, I'll note only the differences, okay? A major, A was the same because A minor and A major both start on A. They both have a whole step to get to your 2nd note of the scale. So that's a B, that's the same. But here's the difference, the 3rd. The 3rd note in the scale is different. In A major, the 3 is C sharp, or D flat, same thing. We'll continue to say C sharp here. A major, this 3rd note is C sharp. And so to create that minor scale, what did we have to do? We had to move this C sharp back 1. So we would call that flattening the C sharp to a C. In this case, which number note is it? It's the 3rd one. And so we'd call this flattening the 3rd. Okay. The other thing we have to do, so D and E are the same as A major, and then but in A major, your F sharp is your 6th note in A major. In a Aeolian minor, it's an F. So again, what do you have to do? You have to flatten your 6th note in your scale, in the 6th note in the major scale, a half step, move that back, whoop, to F for the A minor Aeolian. And then your 7th note in A major is actually G sharp. So you have to flatten this back. How much? You guessed it, a half a step. From G sharp to G to create the A minor. Moving back from here to here. Flattening a half step. So you're flattening the 7. And then, of course, 8, your 8th note just brings you back to your 1, and it starts all over. So this is a common pattern. So one of the things here that you'll see, and it's the same for every single major chord. If you want to create an Aeolian minor, what do? If you know your major chord, if you know your major scale, then all you have to do is pick out the 3rd, the 6th, and the 7th note. And flatten those by a half step. Just move it back one little half step, and you're making an Aeolian minor. Okay. Now, I think that has an E. There we go. Now, we will get much more into this, but if you're following it this far, I just want to introduce this because it's the other popular minor scale. And if you understand this, it will be very, it won't be too complicated. So from this minor scale, all you have to do to create this thing called a Dorian minor is keep this note from your major scale. Okay? What number is it? 6. Okay, we're talking about that 6th letter, 6th note in your scale. The Dorian minor keeps the same thing as the major scale at that spot. The Aeolian minor flattens it a half step. Okay, so just to be clear, a Dorian would go A, B, A Dorian minor, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, and so on. Okay? And that's used more in, say, gypsy jazz settings, and it could be in bluegrass too. It can be used in lots of things. But that's just something to make you aware that those two things exist. If you if you come across that, I don't want you to feel confused. It's very simple. And so the other way, if you want to talk about this in whole steps and half steps, would be that since this is Aeolian, here, let's zoom in on these and see what we would do. We'd keep the exact same pattern up until we got to which note here? Right, the 6th note of the scale. So that's here. So all of these would be the same. This would be a whole step here. Half step. Whole. Whole. And then here, though, we would use a whole step to get to the F sharp. And then the half step to get to the G. And then keep the whole step. So it's really all about the business that's happening around this 6th note here in the F sharp or F. And we just reverse in the Aeolian to get from E to F, which is from 5 to 6. We use a half step and then 6 to 7 a whole. Well, in Dorian minor, we use the whole first to get from 5 to 6, whole step, and then a half step to get up to 7. Again, Aeolian is a half between 5 and 6, whole 6 and 7. Dorian, whole between 5 and 6, and a half step between 6 and 7. Okay? So that's the way to use our handy dandy musical alphabet to build minor scales. Again, important things here. Notice that each note corresponds to a particular number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can apply this same pattern to any starting from any of these letters here and create that minor. So if you applied it here, you could create C minor, C sharp minor, D minor, as long as you followed the pattern of jumping over, one whole step, and then a half step, then a whole, and a half, and just follow that pattern. You could create an Aeolian minor. And so if you want to make a Dorian, you follow a similar, you can apply this pattern to starting from any letter here and create a Dorian minor if you'd like. You can go start at, so let's say B. B to C sharp is a whole step, then a half step up to D, whole step to E, whole step here to F sharp, and then the whole step up to G sharp, half step to A, whole step to B, and it continues. And so that's the other thing, is that same way that the major pattern can be applied to any letter here to create that scale, these patterns can be applied to any letter to create that scale. Now, and also remember that we can compare majors to minors here. And so let's say if we didn't want to think about all the numbers, but we just wanted to compare A major to A, I'm going to write a little A here, Aeolian minor versus a Dorian. What numbers do we have to think about? So here for A Aeolian, we looked at the 3, the 6, and the 7 for the minors. And for Dorian too, we have to ask what are these as compared to A major. And so what we discussed was that A major, we're going to look at the 3rd, the 6th, and the 7th notes of A major and ask how do we change those to make an Aeolian minor or a Dorian minor. So the 3rd note will be flattened. The 6th note will be flattened, and the 7th will be flattened for an Aeolian. And then for a Dorian, it's going to be only the 3rd and the 7th. And the 6th, we're going to keep just the same as it was with an A major. And what's nice about this is that right now I'm talking about A, right? But these are numbers over here, they're not letters. And we can go to this alphabet here and start from any note and figure out what's the 2 of, say, B major. Well, all we have to do is do a whole step up, right? What's the 3? Another whole step for the major. And so we can figure out which note goes with which number in all the keys. And by knowing what numbered notes we have to change, to make a major scale into a minor will help us, because then all we have to know is that whatever that third note is, I got to flatten that. I got to flatten that sixth note in that scale and the seventh, and I'm playing an AL in minor. Same way with the flat 3 and flat 7, leave the 6 alone for the Dorian. And so really, let's just mark out A, and then we can make this statement about all major chords. So any major chord, if I flatten, use this pattern to flatten notes, the 3, 6, and 7, I create the minor, the Aeolian minor of whatever that major chord was. If I only flatten the third note and the seventh note in that scale, then I create that key's Dorian, or that scale's Dorian minor. And so that's plenty, that's a lot, I know, but I hope that gives you some clarity as to what it means by saying minor scale. And now we'll next so I hope that helps and doesn't muddy things up too much, more than it already was. And we'll be back. We'll continue with theory. Thanks.